Welcome back, everybody. We are rocking and rolling through this course. We got most of our app actually set up. We got the core stuff set up, our tab bar set up, our onboarding flow set up. And now we just need to build a few final screens, which are our feature screens. So the core features of our app is what we're going to build now. I saved these for last primarily because they're the most unique to this app and they're secondary screens. They're not something that the user sees at the beginning, but they are incredibly important. In fact, they probably are the most important part of our entire application, because any app can have onboarding and a tab bar, right? But the reason people are going to come back to our app is because of the core features. What are we doing in this app that users can't do anywhere else? Because they can have a tab bar in every app, they can have a profile screen in every app, but they can't make custom AI avatars and chat with those avatars in just any other app. That is the core value proposition of our app. It is the chat feature, essentially. So the first thing we're going to do in this video is a screen to create new avatars. So when we go to the profile screen here, we have this plus button that we already created. And when we click it, it's going to load up this screen for the user to create an avatar. It's a very simple screen, and you guys can tweak this on your own. But basically, the user is going to name their avatar. So maybe we'll name this avatar Nick. They're going to determine what type of avatar they want. So maybe an alien that is walking in the city. And then they're going to generate an image. And then it should load up an image here. Now, this is just a system icon for now because I'm running the mock build. That's what we're going to build in this video. But later, we're going to connect this to the actual OpenAI API, and it's going to actually generate an image based off of these inputs. Lastly, the user will save, and then we'll close the screen. Let's go ahead and start building this screen. So we're going to create a new screen that we don't have yet. In our core section, let's create a new folder called Create Avatar. Within there, let's right-click and create a new file from template, a SwiftUI view, and we'll call this Create Avatar View. Let's jump in here. Let's get the preview working. I'm going to close the navigator. Again, we can see here, this looks like our typical list UI, at least this part. And so again, we're going to use a list on this screen. I just want to point out, for those of you who are maybe never followed my YouTube channel, I assume most people watching this have watched me on YouTube. But the reason we're using lists on all of these screens is because it's easier and it's faster. And I really want to spend most of the time on this course in the architecture sections. So lists look good and they're very easy to use. But if you want to build custom UI and you're wondering why we're not really building out custom UI, I would point you to the SwiftUI in Practice playlist on my YouTube channel. It's totally free. And in this playlist, we build Spotify, the Bumble app, and the Netflix app in SwiftUI. And this playlist is all about custom UI and not about architecture at all. So if you haven't watched this, that's my recommendation. But the reason we're not doing it is because we want to focus more on the architecture in this course. With that said, the UI of these lists look really nice to me. This is very clean. This is basically how Apple wants us to build our apps. That's why they made this list component. Let's get started here. When we go and display this create avatar, again, we're popping it up with a sheet. So we're not pushing into it. We're doing a new sheet. Every time you create a new sheet or a new full screen cover, it's a new environment in SwiftUI, which means the navigation stack that we are in this screen is not going to be in our new environment on this screen. So when we get to the create avatar screen, we're going to want to create a new navigation stack. And we'll open the brackets. Within here, let's put our list. And then on the list, we'll give it a nav title with create avatar. While we're here, let's also add the toolbar. And we're going to add a toolbar item. The placement will be top bar leading. In the content, I'm going to put an image with a system name. Let's use the X mark. Let's make that a .font of title. That looks like it's maybe a little too big. Title 2. That's better. Let's give that a font weight, make it thicker of semi-bold. And let's cast this as any button. And we will make it the plain button. We don't need any special UI on it. Great. For now, when we click that button, let's just dismiss the screen. So we'll use the native dismiss. We'll do @environment \dismiss, make this a private variable called dismiss, and then in here we'll just dismiss the screen. This again is our business logic, so let's come down here and say private func on back button pressed, and then we will call dismiss from in here on back button pressed. Cool. Let's also clean up this button here because we had a lot of code to write. So let's cut this and let's do a private var and call this the back button of type some view. Paste that in and we'll put our back button on the screen. All right, let's get this first section. There is obviously a title, and then there's a text field here where the user can type. Let's create a section with a header. In the header we'll put a text that says name your avatar. I'll put a little asterisk so it looks like it's required. And in here we'll put a text field and we'll look for the one with the text. Let's put some placeholder text that says player 1 and then let's bind to the text. So I'm going to put up here at state private var. Let's call this avatar name of type string and we'll make it a blank string start and let's bind to it. I should now be able to actually type in here. Great. And that's working perfectly. All right, let's go ahead and cut this section, move it down to the bottom. Let's put it after our back button. We'll say private var name section, some view, paste that in. Let's get the next section going here. This is going to be another section. And this time we don't have any name for it. Maybe let's do a header, even though the mock on my right doesn't have one. Do content and header. The header, let's say attributes. So each character will have a bunch of attributes. And then in here we want to create pickers. These are the native SwiftUI pickers for all of our character options. So if you remember when we created the avatar model, we created character option, action, and location. And it's down here, these. So now we're going to put these in our pickers. So it's these three items here. I'm just going to go back to our avatar view. And let's make these state, at state private var. And let's give the default value for each of these. Remember we made the default value earlier in this course, which is awesome. It's perfect timing that I don't have to remember what to actually make the starting state. I can just put default because we already decided that earlier. In here, I'm going to put a picker and we'll look for the one with a selection and content and a label. And let's bind to the character option. Content, I'll press enter. Let's loop on all of the character possibilities. So we'll do for each. And let's see, characters are probably hashable. So let's do with the ID here. Let's loop on the character option type dot all cases, and the ID will backslash dot self, and we'll click enter on content. I'll make this full screen while we were building it. This will be each option in, and then let's put text on the screen that just has the option dot maybe raw value, and the label will just say text hi. Just put it on the screen for a second. All right, so let's see. We got man, woman, alien, dog, cat. Let's make it dot capitalized. And let's change the label on the left to say is a dot dot dot. So it's going to be, Joe is a man. And when we click on one of these, we also want to update the selected option up here. So a picker needs to know what option we're selecting. So we add a tag and we'll use the option. So now when I go and I click on alien, it should update perfect. Let's copy that and let's paste another one here. This one we're going to bind to the character action. And now we're going to go character action dot all cases. Character action has no member all cases. I guess we haven't built that yet. Let's jump to the character action. So here we made a case iterable. Let's also make this case iterable. Let's also make it hashable so that we can loop on it. I'll do the exact same thing for the character location. Let's go back. Character action. And let's change this to that is dot dot dot. So a man that is smiling And let's copy this one more. Down here, we'll make this the character location. We'll bind to the character location, and we'll make this in the ... in the park, in the mall, in the museum, etc. Looking pretty good. I'm going to cut this section now. Let's come down here. Let's do a private var attributes section of type SomeView and paste this in. Attribute section we'll put on the screen. Up next, we're going to do the image section here. So we know it's going to be a section, and we're not going to put a title on this one. So let's just do the content, because we just have one button here that says image. Let's put this in an H stack. Maybe we'll do spacing of 8. And let's put text on the screen that says generate image. Let's give it an underline. Let's make this whole row remove list row formatting. Let's make it look clickable, so we'll give it a foreground style of accent color. And I'm going to cast this as any button, and we use the .plain style for this button. Let's make it clickable. On the right in this H stack, we're going to put a circle. Let's add alignment to the top of this H stack. Let's make the circle, let's give it a fill of color.secondary.opacity, maybe 0.3. That looks good. And then on top of this image, I'm going to add an overlay. And let's just do a Z stack here, and we're just going to, for a second, put an image with a system image. Let's just do heart.fill. Cool. Make that resizable and scale to fill. And let's clip this. We'll do a clip shape with a circle so that it clips within the circle. So this will be the avatar icon that we see here. Heart.fill is probably not a great icon for this. Let's put maybe star.fill. Let's add a little bit of UI here. So when I click generate image, this becomes a progress indicator, and then the image loads in. So we're going to do that. We need a function for generate image. So let's come down to the bottom and do a private func on generate image pressed. Let's open the brackets. So firstly, let's get that loading indicator working. So I'm going to put up here a Boolean. We'll do a @state private var is generating of type bool, set it equal to false. So when is generating is true. So when we click this, we'll set generating equal to true. Let's call this from our button here. Where's our button? Awesome. Let's put this in a Z stack. And we can say if is generating, else. So if it is generating, we're going to put a progress view on the screen. So if I click this and I generate, it's going to start loading. Now I don't like that the UI just jumped when it started loading. So what we're going to do instead of this if statement here, we're going to draw both this and this on the screen and then just animate their opacity. So let's revert this back. I'm going to put this up here in the Z stack, and I'll also put the progress view on the screen. Let's give the progress view a tint of accent color. And then let's give it an opacity. We'll say if is generating, this should be 1, otherwise 0. And we'll do the reverse for the text. Is generating 0, otherwise 1. So now it should work without jumping the image. Cool. We're also going to want to have a state so that we can hold the image after we generate it. So up here, I'm going to call this the generated image. And this will be of type UI image. I'll set it equal to nil to start. We don't need it to equal to nil. Swiftland is yelling at us. And let's put this UI image on the screen. So coming down here, we're going to say if let generated image, then we'll put this image on the screen. And this should be an image from the UI image initializer. Pass in the generated image. So when we go and tap this button, let's do a fake task so we can try await task.sleep. Let's give this seconds of maybe 3 seconds delay. And then let's set the generated image equal to a UI image from the system name, we'll do star.fill. Generate image. 3 seconds later, it should pop in. Perfect. I don't really care that it's pixelated. It's not going to be the real image that we're using. It's pixelated because we're using the UI image conversion, and the system icons are just not made to do that. After we finish this, we'll set isGenerating equal to false. So click this, it should generate, and then false. And obviously we will update our actual generated method in a future video of this course. Great. Let's come up to the top again, and let's take our section and cut it. Let's come down here, and we'll make a private variable called image section of type SomeView. Paste it in, put our image section at the top, and then we have one more section to build, which is the call to action button. So let's call it the save section. So I'm going to make a section in here, and again, we're not going to have a header for this section. Let's put some text that says save. And when we click this save button, I want a little loading indicator to start spinning while it is saving. So we actually did that on a previous button. If you remember, let's sign out. Let's go back through onboarding quick. And you probably remembered here, we have the finish button. We clicked, and then it spun a little bit and then entered the app. I want to do basically that exact same UI. Let's go to the onboarding. Let's go to the onboarding completed view, and let's look at that button. Let's see if we can make a reusable component for this logic here. So obviously we want to decouple it from isCompletingProfile setup, but we want to basically have like if it is loading, we have a progress indicator. Otherwise we have our content. I'm going to copy this. Let's open up the navigator. Let's jump into our views section, our reusable views. Let's create a new file from template, SwiftUI view, and I'm going to call this async call to action button. Let's click create. I'm going to paste our async call to action button in here. And I'm going to challenge you guys to go ahead and create this. I'm not going to give you any hints this time. We basically want to do exactly this, except we want to decouple everything from the current logic. So go ahead and do it. If not, I'm going to go and start doing it right now. So firstly, let's rename isCompletedProfile setup to isLoading. I think isLoading is the most generic term. Let's do var isLoading of type bool. Set it equal to false to start. Make this isLoading. We'll make this isLoading. So it's disabled if it is loading. Let's pass in an action for onPress. Var, let's just call it action. And this will be a function that returns void. And we'll pass in our action here. We also want to change out the text here. So let's pass in a var title of type string. And we'll set it equal, and we'll give it a default value of save. I think save is a more generic call to action button than finish. Down here, I'm going to create a file private struct and call it preview view of type view. Every view has a body. And let's create an @state private var isLoading of type bool equals false. Let's put on the screen an async call to action button. isLoading, we'll pass that in. Triple click, Control M. The title, let's put finish. And then the action, let's click enter. For the action, we're going to set isLoading equal to true. I'm going to create a task. Let's try await task.sleep. Let's sleep for .seconds. Let's do 3 seconds. And then we'll set isLoading back equal to false. Down here, I'm going to put the preview view on the screen. And just like that, we should now be able to use an asynchronous call to action button. We can just make this private. Let's put some padding on the screen. And it looks like it's working. Great. Let's go ahead and use this. I'm going to go back to our call to action button here. Let's put in our async call to action button. Option enter, triple click, Control M. isCompletingProfile setup is the isLoading state. The title here is finish, the capital F, and then the action is on finish button pressed, which I could open the brackets, or I can actually just paste it in here like this. Let's go ahead and delete this code. Awesome. This is simple enough code now that I could just put this up here and get rid of this private variable. I'm going to copy this. Let's Command Shift O and jump back to our create avatar view. And we should now be able to also just put the button in here. Let's create another variable up here called isSaving of type bool. Let's pass in isSaving. Let's make this say save. And then we need an action. So coming down here, let's put an action. Let's copy the onGenerate action. And let's just do onSavePressed. So in here, isSaving should be set to true. We'll do 3 seconds. And then we'll set isSaving equal to false. And let's actually dismiss the screen. So if it is successful, we'll then dismiss the screen as well as set isSaving back to false. Let's come back up to the top and pass in onSavePressed. Let's make this .remove list row formatting. Let's click it. It should work. Awesome. I want to add a little bit of padding on this section. So we'll just do padding, maybe top. Let's do 24, just so it pushes a little bit off of this circle up here. Let's cut this. Let's come down here and we'll call this private var save section of type some view, and open the brackets, paste that in, paste that up here. Let's do a little bit of validation to end this video. We're going to go to the generate image button. So that's in the image section here. So I don't want the user to be able to generate the image. Let's disable the button if it is currently generating. So on this text, we'll say .disabled. If is generating is true, just so you can't click it twice. Even though it's not going to be on the screen, that should work. Let's also disable it if there is no name in the avatar up here. So we can see that it's kind of grayed out. But if I type in a name, then we can generate. So let's do is generating. Let's disable it if it is generating, or if the avatar name is empty. Perfect. And we're going to do a similar thing on the save button. So let's come down to our save button here, and we'll say .disabled. And we want to disable the save button if there is no image. So the user should generate an image first and then be able to save it. So if generated image is equal to nil, then it should be disabled. And this is not tinting down to the disabled state because of the AnyButton view modifier that we're using on this button. And we have the custom button style. So what we're going to do here instead is just call the .opacity, and we'll say generating image is equal to nil. We'll do 0.5. Otherwise 1.0. So we can just manually do that ourselves. Cool. Let's go ahead and take our create avatar view and make sure it works. Let's jump into the profile view. We have a create avatar full screen cover. Let's add this. Let's build our app to a simulator, and let's just try it out. I have a simulator running here. I'm going to jump into the profile view. Let's wait for it to load. Not that we have to. Let's pop open our screen. Looks like it works. The X button also works. Create avatar. This button is disabled right now. This button's disabled right now. Let's add maybe Nick. This button now works. Nick is an alien. He is drinking in the forest. Let's generate our image. See what happens. Wow, the image looks great. Let's click the save button, which is now enabled, and it should save. And if it is successful, it should dismiss the screen. Perfect. All right, that is it for this video. Let's wrap up this video by just jumping into the avatar model. I noticed when we went to look for all of the character options in the avatar model, we should not have all of these enums in the same file. So in my services section for the avatar, let's create another file here, and I'm going to call this the character attributes. And in the character attributes, I'm just going to paste all of the character options. So let's cut all three of these and the avatar description builder. And let's put them in our character attributes. Let's put the builder at the bottom because the other stuff is probably more relevant most of the time. And then let's actually name this avatar attributes, not character attributes. Avatar attributes makes much more sense. Let's build and run, make sure that it compiles. I think it will. And let's Option Command C. Let's make this a feature, and we'll say create avatar view. Go ahead and stage it, commit it, and push it up to GitHub. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.